The missing commuter plane in Alaska has been found, and it's not good. Also, a collision between a 787 and a 737, plus the prelim report on the RV-10 that crashed into a furniture plant, and more aviation news on this episode of Taking Off. Welcome to Taking Off. I'm Christy Schaefer. It's unfortunately been a very active week in aviation. In this episode, we'll be diving into a lot of aviation news that's happened over the last few days that we haven't yet covered, like the Alaska regional commuter flight and the dramatic crash of a KingAir in Sao Paulo. But first, I want to let you guys know that we've split our channel into two, keeping this one primarily news. The other new channel will be all of our aviation flying, talk shows, made for the hardcore aviation people. So please take a moment to subscribe to the new channel. We'll have a link in the pinned comment below. Now, on to the news. On Wednesday, February 5th, a Japan Airlines Boeing 787 Dreamliner arriving from Tokyo collided with the tail of a stationary Delta Airlines Boeing 737 at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. This one literally hit close to home for me because I was actually flying on a Japan Airlines flight that same day. Different airplane. The incident occurred around 10:17 a.m. local time as the Delta aircraft carrying 142 passengers was awaiting de-icing prior to their departure to Puerto Vallarta. The collision resulted in significant damage to the vertical stabilizer and rudder of the Delta Airlines 737 and the right wing of the Japan Airlines 787. The good news here is no injuries were reported, except for a couple of banged-up airplanes. Following the incident, Delta transferred all of the passengers to another aircraft and continued on their journey safely and uneventfully to Puerto Vallarta. The FAA temporarily paused some flights into the airport and has initiated an investigation into what exactly happened here. More to come later once that report's finalized. Now, previously here on Taking Off, Dan covered the accident of November 8757 Romeo, a Vans aircraft RV-10 that crashed into a furniture manufacturing facility on January 2nd in Fullerton, California. The NTSB has released their preliminary report of the incident. The aircraft was destroyed minutes after takeoff, resulting in the deaths of both the pilot and passenger, along with injuries to 19 people on the ground, with 8 serious injuries and 11 minor. Witnesses observed the aircraft taxiing with the left door not fully flush with the fuselage. Preliminary data indicated that the aircraft climbed to about 500 feet after takeoff before the pilot issued a distress call and requesting an emergency landing. During the pilot's attempt to return to the airport, the plane completed a 180-degree turn and descended to 435 feet near the runway threshold. Witnesses observed erratic flight behavior, including aggressive banking and a noticeable descent before the aircraft collided with the roof of a furniture manufacturing facility. The crash resulted in a fireball upon impact, destroying the forward cabin and most of both wings. The fuselage came to rest upright on a deformed pallet rack, and engine components were found approximately 40 feet beyond the wreckage. This was unfortunately unsurvivable. Investigators located all primary airframe components except the left main cabin door, which was found on the roof of the facility approximately 150 feet away from the impact site. To understand why, you have to know the design of the RV-10. It includes composite gull-wing doors that latch using fore and aft locking pins. But examination of this accident RV-10 revealed that modifications had been made to the door locking system, including replacing aluminum locking pins with solid steel pins and installing custom door blocks. And also, the secondary safety latch system recommended by the manufacturer had not been installed on this aircraft. Further analysis revealed that the modified door latch indicator system only monitored 2 of the 4 locking pins. This inadequate configuration would not have alerted the pilot if the forward pins failed to engage. The left cabin door found near the crash site was not fully locked and its pins were only partially extended. Most small airplanes like my Piper Warrior and Dan's Cessna 210 have doors that open traditionally, and if they become unlatched, the airstream keeps them shut. This RV model has gull-wing doors and can be ripped off by the airstream if not latched properly, potentially damaging the tail flight surfaces. So, when the door became unlatched, it was indeed an emergency. We'll know more when the NTSB releases the docket and final report later. Speaking of knowing more, we now know more about the missing Bering Air Cessna 208 Grand Caravan. On February 6th, the Caravan operating as Bering Air Flight 445 disappeared over Alaska's Norton Sound during a scheduled flight from Unalakleet to Nome. The aircraft departed Unalakleet Airport at 2:37 p.m. local time, carrying 9 passengers and 1 pilot. Approximately 38 minutes into the flight, around 3:16 p.m., the plane lost contact with air traffic control while flying over water about 12 miles offshore shortly after going into holding to wait for the runway to be cleared. A day later, authorities were finally able to locate the wreckage out on an ice floe. More on that in a minute. And sadly, there were no survivors. Bering Air is a small regional airline based in Nome, Alaska that's been around for quite a long time. It was founded in 1979 and operates scheduled passenger, cargo, and charter flights across remote communities in western Alaska and beyond. Bering Air is known for its critical role in supporting rural Alaskan communities by delivering goods, medical services, and providing a lifeline for residents who need reliable travel options. The airline is also notable for its dedication to safety and community engagement. They operate a diverse fleet of aircraft, including the Beech 1900, KingAir, and even helicopters. But this accident happened in their Cessna Caravan. The Cessna 208B Grand Caravan, made by Textron Aviation, is a versatile, single-engine, high-wing utility aircraft renowned for its reliability and rugged performance in challenging environments. It's powered by a Pratt & Whitney PT6 turboprop engine, offering excellent power for both short and long-haul flights. You've probably seen these airplanes around the smaller regional airports going to and from the larger hubs. Its robust design, short takeoff and landing capabilities, and adaptability to various configurations make it a popular choice for operators in remote and rugged areas, including Alaska. The Cessna Caravan is prized for its ability to handle adverse weather conditions and unpaved runways, making it a lifeline for many isolated communities, which is what makes this accident such a mystery. Search and rescue operations commenced promptly, involving the U.S. Coast Guard, Alaska National Guard, Civil Air Patrol, and the local authorities. And when it went missing, efforts to locate the plane were hampered by adverse weather conditions, including light snow and fog, which limited aerial search capabilities. According to the last available ADS-B data, the aircraft was around 5,300 feet and with a ground speed of 118 knots. After this point, the aircraft disappeared from ADS-B and lost contact with air traffic control. It's not known whether the pilot was utilizing an autopilot or perhaps hand-flying the airplane. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, the aircraft experienced some kind of event which caused them to experience a rapid loss in elevation and a rapid loss in airspeed around 3:18 p.m. The U.S. Coast Guard found the wreckage of the aircraft February 7th, located on sea ice in the Norton Sound, approximately 34 miles southeast of Nome, Alaska. At this time, there are no reported survivors, and according to the Coast Guard, 3 bodies were confirmed at the time of this report. The weather in Nome, Alaska was light winds with overcast skies around 5,000 feet. The METAR was reporting snow off and on in the preceding hour, with visibility varying between 2.5 miles to 9 miles, depending on the special METAR report. The Cessna Caravan does have an option for de-icing involving a liquid-based TKS system as opposed to pneumatic boots, and investigators will be looking into that. Juan over at Blancolario has an excellent report on the de-icing system on his channel, so please go check him out for a detailed explanation. The NTSB and FAA are investigating the accident to determine what brought down such a capable and reliable aircraft. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families and loved ones of those on board. Now, before we get to the KingAir accident that occurred in Brazil on February 7th, we want to discuss an FAA suspension issued on December 11th and is similar to what occurred to Trent Palmer. The FAA seeks to suspend a seaplane pilot certificate for 120 days due to alleged violations of federal aviation regulations following multiple takeoffs and landings on the Connecticut River on May 28, 2024. The FAA accused the pilot, who also happens to be an FAA employee, of flying less than 500 feet over the Calvin Coolidge Bridge and nearby houses, claiming violations of regulations against unsafe operations. The location is just by the Northampton Airport and only a few miles from a designated seaplane base. The pilot disputes the allegations and has appealed the suspension to the NTSB, arguing that the flights adhered to the legal exception for takeoffs and landings. AOPA has raised concerns about the FAA's enforcement practices, particularly the interpretation of FAR 91-119, which was central in a similar case involving pilot Trent Palmer. Both cases hinge on whether low flight passes are necessary for takeoff or landing. AOPA is also closely monitoring the FAA's use of ADS-B data in investigations, as the FAA is restricted from using such data as the sole basis for enforcement actions under the 2024 FAA Reauthorization Act. The association emphasizes the need for transparency and rigorous analysis of the FAA's evidence in this case. This case has significant implications for seaplane operations outside of remote areas. If the pilot's suspension is upheld, it could render many seaplane operations illegal overnight. AOPA expects to learn more about how the FAA gathered its evidence and whether ADS-B data played a role. The organization has expressed concern that errors in low-altitude ADS-B data could lead to misinterpretations of flight paths. This case may set a precedent for off-airport operations and the regulatory use of ADS-B data enforcement investigations moving forward. Now, on to our final report, a truly tragic event involving a Beechcraft F-90 KingAir. On February 7th, the KingAir, registered Papa Sierra Foxtrot Echo Mike, was involved in an accident in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The aircraft had taken off from Campo de Marta Airport around 7:15 a.m., bound for Porto Alegre. Shortly after departure, the pilot reported technical difficulties and made a left turn to attempt an emergency landing on Marque de São Vicente Avenue in the Barra Funda district, a busy part of the city. Unfortunately, it collided with a public bus during the landing attempt, causing a fire and scattering debris everywhere. The two pilots on board the plane did not survive. Several bus passengers and a motorcyclist were injured and received medical attention at local hospitals. Emergency crews quickly arrived to manage the scene, extinguish the fire, and assist the injured. Authorities, including the Brazilian Air Force's Accident Investigation Team, or SANIPA, have begun a detailed investigation to determine the cause of the crash. The weather during this accident has been reported as clear skies with light winds of just 3 knots out of the northwest. The Beechcraft F-90 KingAir, widely regarded for its versatility in regional and private aviation, has a strong safety record, making this event super uncommon. Investigators aim to gather more information to ensure lessons are learned to enhance aviation safety. But KingAir is taking a hit this week. Another KingAir crashed, this time in the Philippines. On February 6th, a Super KingAir 350 contracted by the U.S. military crashed, killing 4, including a U.S. Marine and 2 defense officials. According to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command Statement, the aircraft was providing intelligence support and reconnaissance support at the request of our Philippine allies. The incident occurred during a routine mission in support of U.S.-Philippine security cooperation activities. The plane, registration November Charlie 349 Charlie Alpha, crashed in a rice field after a mission operating in the South China Sea. The cause of that crash is under investigation, but happened amidst the backdrop of increasing tensions with Beijing as the U.S. ramps up monitoring efforts. We hope to know more about what caused this crash in the coming weeks and months. Well, that's all the news for today. It's been an eventful year already, and we hope that out of these incidents, we learn more about what to do to prevent them moving forward. If you like aviation, check out our new In the Hangar channel by clicking here. Please click the link here or in the description below and watch and subscribe. You'll get to watch in-depth aviation interviews and videos on flying. Thanks to our sponsors who make this show possible, like FlyingEyesOptics.com, the best glasses for under headsets and helmets. Use our discount code TAKINGOFF, all caps one word, for 10% off. And Marshall Protective Services, MPSProtects.com. More info on our sponsors below in the description. And also, check out the report I did on John Denver's final flight right here. I appreciate you guys watching, and as always, fly safe and take care. We'll see you next time on Taking Off.